Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about Linux projects such as Linux distribution, a desktop environment, or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics from the community, anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. With me today, I got a fantastic panel to kick off the new year. I've got, now it's Benji. From Ben to Benji. I'm good with that. Schykle, Matt,
Oh
Adam,
God, I forgot to change my
Eris,
name.
Jinda, and Low Tech Linux Dale. So I swapped that just because that's kind of how this worked for me. So how is everybody tonight?
Excellent.
Good, good.
Killing it.
Awesome. So on the docket for today, it's just an open mic night. So whatever you want to kick off the new year with just some kind of discussions, about anything that that you're thinking about. We've had like the holiday season to maybe unplug a little bit, or I don't know, disconnect yourself. Oh, and then we have Swift. Swift walked through the door. You could hear the creaking of
Cliff
of his
walked
footsteps.
in the door.
As he walked through. So welcome, Swift. But so that's the topic for today. We'll do a community free pour, and then we'll end it. So, but first, we're doing Linux and tech. So Schykle, before we in the pre-show, you're saying how you're moving even further away from centralized services to more the Fediverse in your social media. Does that include like Reddit? You're moving to like the Lenny as well, or is it just Mastodon?
What? That's definitely been on my list. I'm a little hesitant to dive into it quite yet, only because Reddit's one of those things I rarely use. But when I need it, I really need it. So it's something that I need to spend more time on. But I recently kicked back up a Mastodon profile. I moved some stuff over from an old one, so I didn't have to worry about, you know, trying to scratch for some like attention and connections. That stuff was already there from my previous sort of endeavors. But PixelFed has actually been growing quite a bit lately. And so for those of you that don't know what PixelFed is, that is I would describe it as an alternative to a service like Instagram. It focuses primarily on photos more than anything. So any of y'all that do use Instagram probably know that there's like videos in your feed for some reason, and it's because they get engagement. But PixelFed is photo first. Um, it works similarly to how Mastodon works in that the underlying protocol is ActivityPub, and the nice thing about it is that if you're a Mastodon person and you don't really have any interest in, let's say, posting things to something like PixelFed, you can honestly still just follow PixelFed users and PixelFed content on Mastodon because those protocols intersect. So you can enjoy all the benefits of seeing that stuff without having to invest in being on the platform, let's say, if you have no interest in posting. But recent changes with not that it's any surprise, but with Meta and their policies and just in general how commonly they misbehave, and how blatant they are about their misbehavior, which is shocking that they can get away with it while also just like doing it out in the open. I was like, I don't really want to do that. So my next step is kind of hopping off Instagram. I've already gotten off of Threads, moved over to Mastodon. I'm on Twitter maybe like once a week at most. So far it's been good. It's a huge difference compared to a couple years ago. Using Mastodon felt like honestly being in an empty void full of like a stream of random nonsense. But there's clearly been some work done to sort of refine things and have an actual feed full of stuff that you are actually looking at rather than just like a feed of stuff that the algorithm decides is what you should see. So it's refreshing.
No, that's great. For a while there, I was I've been a Mastodon, I think 2017 or so. I can't remember when. Kind of on a strange one of the early servers that is still kicking. I think they've really improved a lot of the interaction there. I've always liked the 3 or 4 pane. I can look at it. They get multiple columns for interacting on like seeing your feed. So you have like your anything that's basically your home essentially, and then you have your notifications, and then you have like whatever you've clicked into. So like for me, often it's like my personal, I keep in there, and that one, or if I click on somebody else's, to look at something, whatever, that's when I see it. And I do like that interface thing. That's probably my favorite interface of all the social media things. But they're all kind of sort of terrible, I think. I don't know. For a while there on Mastodon, it was like really bad with like just like real visceral kind of, things people saying about other people. Didn't like that, so I sort of unfollowed a few people because it's like, whoa, But
Yeah, I think I had a similar experience initially, and I think part of it is that when you have a highly opinionated way of developing a type of network, or especially when there isn't a large volume of people there already, it's very easy to be very pushy about how things are supposed to work in your mind, and that tends to turn into vitriol, that tends to turn personal, that, you know, um, I've seen people get harassed for forgetting to post alt text on an image, to the point where they were called some pretty bad names.
wow.
Alt text is a really good thing to include. I'm terrible at remembering to do it, but
I don't think I've ever done it.
definitely not like a personal thing to go after somebody for. We're all just there to talk and share things, and I think now that they've seen some significant growth and there's a lot more, movement in terms of like, Mastodon.online, Mastodon.social are like the two big primary servers.
Yeah, I don't think
They've
they
really
existed when I
toned things
joined.
down. Yeah, and if they did, they were, I mean, hanging on by a thread, to be honest with you. It's a huge difference now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's. I had no motivation to add threads. I think I still miss Google Plus. That was my favorite. I think of all of them.
Yeah.
It seemed like a happy place, but maybe that was just my feed. It wasn't surprisingly, even though it was Google Plus, it didn't have all the algorithmic manipulation that I feel like other things do. Um, although it seems like Twix doesn't seem to have that same kind of, I follow some retro tech stuff and whatever, and it's all pretty much, nice people what I follow, so that works out well. I don't think many of them that I follow on Twitter are. I think a couple are on Mastodon, but I'm not about to hop on a Blue Sky. I checked that out for a little bit. I'm like, whoa, that's some not for me, not for me.
I'm giving it a shot in like kind of like the background. I'd say the thing about Mastodon that I think is really important is that ActivityPub is a relatively well-established protocol that focuses on that interoperability. And while like Blue Sky technically is decentralized, one of the problems is that for all intents and purposes, like the Blue Sky initial instance is the one that everybody uses. Moderation falls solely on that team effectively for about 20 something million users. And it has been no different for me than Twitter in that way. I feel like I just have more controls on Mastodon, although some of the interface controls are better on Blue Sky, but it's just if you have one, the other one's not really worth it.
Yeah, I got you. Well, cool. And I wonder, like other federated services. Are there anything else besides like the social media, or is it mostly just social media that use federated services?
There's some other stuff. One of them is called Loops, and it's another social media style thing, but that's kind of similar to what Instagram Reels is, from what I understand. I haven't
Okay.
gotten into it, but it's on my list. And I believe that is headed by the same developer that does PixelFed. So a really nice thing about that approach is rather than sort of doing the same things that Instagram did, which kind of made it horrible to use, which is stuffing videos down everybody's photo feed, they've actually created a separate feed for that. So you can have a Loops account and a PixelFed account, and they both have specific purposes. So that's pretty nice.
I don't know, good, bad, otherwise. It seems like it's all splintering. It's almost like in a way, okay, so for me, social media long ago was you had to go on the Mandrake forum or the OpenSUSE forum or, whatever, pick your forum for like your interests and, Tux Digital forum. And that was my social media. And then Facebook kind of pulled everything together, and then I don't know what happened, but now it's all splintering again. So it almost seems like maybe this is a new splintering of whatever. We're back to the AOL chat rooms where we had all
Yeah.
these different.
I think even if you ignore the policy issues with just large companies like Facebook and all of that, I think one of the things that we've realized as users, hopefully more and more, is that having everything crammed into one space makes it really difficult to get the most out of whatever you're there for. Um, like I know we all love that one-stop shop kind of thing, but it does get to a point where it's honestly too much, and it doesn't make it really enjoyable to use, or it's too enjoyable, and then you have other issues. So
Yeah,
I have a quick question.
sure, fire away.
Um, Sweetie's been looking at a couple of them. One of them's called Own, and one of them's called Fanbase. Have we heard of any of those?
I haven't.
Own is she said Own that specifies that you own whatever you update or upload, and I'm not sure about Fanbase, but I think Fanbase, one of those is supposed to be more like a TikTok replacement. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
She's looking for a TikTok replacement considering the current circumstances of TikTok.
YouTube Shorts, not too bad. I enjoy that. I think a lot of people synchronize their TikTok to their YouTube, I think, for Shorts. And I think also YouTube made them a little longer than it too now. I think like 3 minutes, kind of like TikTok. I think I don't know the actual length anymore, but it used to be 1 minute. But I've really been enjoying, like when it's like you want to. Oops, my hand just hit the keyboard. Did I mess something up here? Oh no, it's still going. We're still going. We're good. We're good. Sometimes it's fun just like a quick little video. Somebody does something kind of neat. They build something like, and you see it like instead of a 20-minute video with detail, it's a vertical portrait, which I don't really care for, but it's still, I think they're still kind of fun. And I make some shorts every once in a while.
I'm still trying to figure out how to make the shorts right for my YouTube channel. I haven't quite figured it out yet using Kden Live.
So what I do is Kden Live actually has a mode where you can have vertical screen.
Okay.
It's one of and then you can use that, and then you just throw your videos in there. So if you shot it in landscape, what I would do is I would just make it square, and then, like, so you can like do a pan and zoom in Kden Live, make it a square, and then what it is I take the another layer of the whole video and I make it full size and I just blur it. That's kind of what they do like on I've seen them do on TV and some other things. So it works out all right.
I've seen that effect. It's not too bad. It's just I haven't quite figured it out yet.
from what I understand, Shorts has a couple of ways of doing it. Now, when you upload a video that's vertical and it's relatively short in length, I believe it does automatically try to publish as a short.
Yep.
And you, I think, can manually trigger a toggle, or you used to be able to, but it will think it's a short.
The hashtag shorts, and that'll work.
Yeah. Another thing about it, though, is I think you can make shorts from videos you've already uploaded. So you can technically sort of clip them and have that actually backlink to the original video. So I found that to be useful. I've done that a couple of times. I honestly don't remember how I did it. I think it was in the Android app, but I'm sure YouTube Studio on the web has a way of doing that.
That's sweet. I'll have to find that.
It's just so much easier, honestly, than trying to re-upload it and then try and make sure everything's... It's a mess. Managing 2 feeds for the same thing is frustrating.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, anyway, I guess good times here with the Fediverse for you. Hopefully hopefully get everything you need out of it. I think I probably won't go back to the Mandrake forums, but I think maybe if I need
Yeah.
interact with people on something, I'll just go to go talk.
I'm
to
just
I have a
gonna.
question for you about
Oh
your
yeah.
Fediverse stuff.
Yeah, fire away.
So, do you find that there's been enough uptake in general circles, not just tech circles, that there's enough sort of conversation flowing and outside, or unless you just, if your bubble is tech, that's fine too. But like, do you think there's been enough uptick? Because it seems like I know Threads, like Meta's thing was supposed to be like federated, and I don't is Blue Sky federated? I don't remember. And
It's
so,
not on like the Activity Pub Federation thing.
Mhm.
It's technically you can have your own instances, but it's
Okay,
effectively a separate thing.
right. So like, is there enough of like general folks that you found on there, like outside of just nerdy tech people who love federated things? I know
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's a
there's
good
no shortage
question.
of crypto bros on there, but outside of that.
Thankfully, I've avoided most of the crypto bros, but I will say that there are bubbles, I would say. There's a lot of tech people on Mastodon, and I think that's just in the nature of it being a generally tech-focused project. Um, I would say that there's a pretty big art bubble as well. Most of them do tend to have like open source tendencies, I've noticed. So like a lot of them use Krita. Krita, however, is like one of those things where even like Windows users who've never touched Linux use. It's a remarkable project. I've seen a lot of like political bubbles as well. So like if you're into politics, boy, there is no shortage of stuff to follow on that front. But I will certainly say that as a whole, I would say the volume is lower. And now if you're looking to replace a pretty poppin' and bustlin' feed with new content all the time, Mastodon might not work for you right away. I've overall been like kind of toning that stuff down a little bit and kind of trimming it. So it's working well for me. But for sure it is a much lower volume compared to like what you can find on Twitter where there's a ton of people posting about Minecraft. The contrast is very much there.
So Chris says he used to use Krita. Now I'm using Pinta. Have you heard of Pinta? It's
It's
painting
been
made
a
simple.
hot minute. Yeah, it's like almost like MS Paint with some extra stuff, I think. Like paint.net. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of it.
Yeah.
Where it has like extra features like layers and stuff like that. It's solid.
Yeah, but I've used it in the past, but I use the Color Paint KDE app now.
I'm still stuck on the GIMP train.
I use GIMP too. I utilize a combination of things.
I would say the one thing that draws me towards something like Pinta and why I've used it in the past is just that GIMP can be a little large in terms of like the whole running experience of it. If I want to do something simple, Pinta's like what I'll open. It's been a couple months since I've used it, but GIMP typically is anytime I'm importing a large image or I'm like doing some like bigger stuff with layers or whatnot.
Makes sense. Simple tools are sometimes the best. Jason, welcome. Happy New Year to you.
Evening.
So good to have you. Of course.
Happy New Year to all of y'all.
All of y'all.
Y'all.
All. Well, I mean, isn't y'all all like you all?
Y'all.
So all.
Hey,
y'all.
Jason.
It's all right.
I figure that's a southern thing. I don't understand it either.
Well, I mean, actually, technically, you is plural anyway. The single form of you is, I think, thou, something like that. So, for what it's worth, Old English. But anyway, all right. Well, very cool. Does anybody else have anything you want to say about the Fediverse and what they're doing for their social media ings? So I read someplace this past week that people who tend to stay off of social media tend to be happier people and have a more positive outlook in life. So I'm not telling you what you need to do for you, but I've read that. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. I don't make the
I
rules.
can 100% guarantee I've been much happier trimming it down. Life has been sunshine and roses in comparison. Uh,
Yeah, I can see that because I mean, I think when you have I think in-person interactions, it's probably I don't know, nothing against my e-friends, but sometimes in-person interactions are a little more fun. So, maybe meet you at a Linux fest or something. That'd be kind of cool.
I think I would say that one of the things that I've found is that um, obviously we all get into bubbles and we surround ourselves with the things that we want to see, or we get surrounded with the things that we don't want to see because negative stuff gets attention. But I would say that the biggest thing is that the diversity in who you're talking to and what you're talking to, it's very easy to begin expressing um, uh, emotions or sentiment in general that you don't necessarily want to express with certain people when they're the only people you're engaging with. And there's not really any like barrier. There's no risk on Twitter, like for an example, right? You could say whatever you want, and for the most part, it's fine. And you're only engaging with that form of interaction. There's a lot of emotions that we feel as people that need to be expressed and things that we need to do outside of that, and not regulating that by just going and touching some grass it's a real problem. It does make a difference.
Well, even if I wanted to, I can't touch grass right now.
It's too cold.
Snow.
There's
lots
no
of snow.
grass.
Yeah.
Get out of my pretzels, cat.
So touch snow maybe.
Touch cold.
Can probably go into like a gym and touch AstroTurf. Is that kind of the same?
I think it's close enough. Yeah, it smells weird, but
Touch cards.
This is what
Magic.
This is where I get my in-person interactions.
Isn't that
like
one of those like
tomorrow
really
I'll go play.
expensive cards with an iridescent print on that?
No, that's just probably the sleeve you're seeing.
Oh,
That's
okay.
making it shiny looking. I do have some, fairly expensive ones, but that's what I'll be doing tomorrow.
Good old
Magic the
MTG.
Gathering. Yep, Magic the Gathering, probably about 8 hours.
Wow, that's some dedication right there.
Yep.
That's a game I'm in no way as heck good at, Jason. I don't know a darn thing about it, man.
Just don't get involved in it because it's expensive.
I thought Yu-Gi-Oh was a heck of a pricey game.
Oh, all the card games are. Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, whatever else there is out there.
Magic,
50,
everything.
there's
Yeah.
a billion of them because you have to
If
invest
you-
in them.
If you get your Pokemon cards at Aldi when they have them there, they're not bad at all.
Oh
Probably not.
God. I
You know,
used
my-
to play Yu-Gi-Oh, but I gave it up. I just finally said, heck with it. I'm not paying for this expensive crap no more.
My
I
issue with
love it.
Magic the Gathering tournaments is that they smell bad.
Well, that's not the tournaments. That's the people.
That's the people.
Yeah,
Well-
that was one thing about nerds. They're not exactly the Magic nerds and card game nerds and stuff like that. They're not exactly the most
Hygienic.
hygienic. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Of people. Now me, I bathed before and probably bathe after. So
Hey, I take a shower once a month, whether I need it or not.
That's something my dad would say.
yep.
I can't
Well-
sleep dirty. I just can't.
Mhm.
The army
Oh,
broke me on
God.
that one in a bad way. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and get into the meat of it all here.
Yeah.
So, it's an open mic night, and this is Linux Saloon, and so I just want to kind of kick off the discussion with, if you're using Linux, because that's not a requirement to be on Linux Saloon, no reason. Are you happy with your distro? Like, do you think in this new year you're going to maybe make a new change? I know Jinda, he's on MX. That's probably not going to change.
Probably not. I would
Yeah.
probably say no. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. And then
Max
I
right
think-
here.
You're what, Mint, Jason?
Well, it depends on which computer you're talking about. Let's see. I run Mint. I run Ubuntu. I
Oh.
run MX. I run Fedora. I had Pop over there, Pop Cosmic, but it decided to stop working, so I have to figure that out. like it'll boot, show the pop icon, and then just be black screen.
That's all
So-
it is.
So that's the that computer. I'll worry about that at some point. I mean, I've got Manjaro. I mean, I've got like 8 different distros that I run. I swear, so there's MX, Ubuntu, Mint, Fedora, Manjaro. I swear, I know I'm missing one on one of the laptops down there, and I forget what it is. So at least 6 distros that I run. But my preference, the one I enjoy the most, would be the Linux Mint on the Mac Pro, and then the MX on the iMac.
Well, Ben's Tech Room says I've been running Mint 22.1 for almost a month now, so he's with you in that Mint train.
Yeah, 22.1, 22.1. That's in beta still, right?
I have no idea. I haven't looked that up. I just saw he wrote
Yep,
that.
he does say yep, it's still in beta. There it
Oh,
is.
okay.
But his next comment.
Yeah,
That answers that question.
I've kind of gotten away from the whole distro hopping addiction. I guess I've gone to rehab and I'm recovering distroholic. But
It's easy to relapse, so be careful.
yeah, it is. But these days I mainly just stick to 2 distros, Arch and Debian. I like Arch better. It just doesn't like me back. So I use Debian because, well, like I was saying before we went live, Arch is my favorite distro because it's really bare bones and you get the latest and greatest stuff. You can tinker with it, you do anything you want with it. But when you need a dependable system that you know is just going to work every time you turn it on, Arch isn't it. So that's just
No, it's not.
that's where Debian comes in. So yeah, I mean, Arch for play, Debian for business, I guess, is kind of.
And
the
when
way
you say
I look
Debian,
at
are
it.
you using straight Debian like Debian 12, or are you using
Yeah,
like one of the spins?
No, I'm using straight Debian with KDE Plasma.
Yeah, one of my the people that Nate hangs out with sometimes too in the Mac group that I'm also part of. One of the ladies there, she decided to try Debian 12. Yeah, that lasted all of maybe 40 minutes, and then she put in Linux Mint on there.
Well, I've kind of grown to be pretty confident in the opinion that the best Linux experiences are found at the parent distributions. So instead of Manjaro, use Arch. Instead of Ubuntu, use Debian, and so on. But there is a steeper learning curve, and some people aren't willing to
Go
to
down that route.
you know to
Yeah,
go
she's
through
new to
that.
Mint. She's new to Mint, new to Linux. You know, she pretty much only has run Mint, which is what I call you know, it's basically Linux with training
Trina?
wheels. Yep, Trina. Yep. And so she was stumbling, bumbling, trying to get it all working on her stream, and needless to say, the next thing we know, she's got Mint. So it
I
just
like
works
Mint,
for her.
but I like Mint, but I think Mint is starting to fall behind the curve because, for example, KDE has the Redshift kind of feature built into it. So does the GNOME desktop. There's a lot of different things that are just commonplace in a lot of these desktops that don't exist in the Cinnamon desktop anymore. I think it's just kind of there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not keeping up with the modern trends, I guess you could say. And in order to get some of those on the Cinnamon desktop, you kind of have to do a little bit of tweaking, which But I mean, there's nothing wrong with Mint. It's a good, baby's first distro, so it's a good place to start.
So Chris says he's running a Linux Mint Debian Edition 6. And Arita is in Jinda's boat that says MX rules. And Linux Mint. What about you, Eris? What are you running these days?
Content with my StormOS malarkey.
Well, you have to be. You have to eat your own dog food.
True that.
Or Dale, what are you running these days? And you pretty happy with it?
My main is Tumbleweed KDE Plasma, and I'm very happy with it. I have 5 computers behind me that are all running Tumbleweed KDE Plasma. Well, those 2 are running Tumbleweed XFCE or no,
Something.
I don't know. I don't know something. Sweetie's computer's running Kubuntu 24 24.10. My 80-year-old mother's computer is Kubuntu 22.04 LTS, and Sweetie's laptop is running Monjero KDE. But I'm running Tumbleweed, and I'm super happy with it. About 2 years now running, and I've not had a single issue out of it.
That's awesome. I can't say the same. I usually break things.
So-
break things.
So you're saying she ran Manjaro KDE for more than 5 minutes without it blowing up? That's pretty amazing.
That laptop has run Monjero KDE for 4 years now.
So Prophetic is here, and also Rushil. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but welcome. Happy New Year to you.
Hello.
So are you happy with your Linux distribution, Prophetic? Whatever you're running these days?
I'm in the desert period right now, unfortunately. I am currently running Ubuntu on this machine here, Kubuntu on my laptop, and I'm just not fully settled in right now. So yeah, I'm still working out where I'm going to land next, because Aeon has been in release candidate for a long time. They had some weird bugs with the tick installer. And right when I thought it was at the cusp of a full release, a whole new rabbit trail dealing with bootloaders and TPM requirements and all this stuff. And Richard tends to keep pushing the finish line further out, which is his right to do.
Moving the goalposts.
Yeah. And I just felt like, okay, I think while he's around the bend, going to land, let me dabble. And then I just never settled in anywhere in the meantime. So
Yeah,
I got
that's one of the main reasons I run like a billion different distros, is because it's one day you feel like we're using this distro, and next day you feel like running that distro, and you have options. Of course,
Yeah.
I don't run just Linux. I run Mac. I have Mac OS. I have the latest Mac OS, and I also have Windows. I have a couple Windows machines, so I run a plethora of different things because nerd.
So
Yeah.
pretty much you got the best of multiple worlds. And
Absolutely.
that's pretty much the way that I like to operate as well. Like my daily driver, as we've spoken of before, is Monterey on a Mac that's from 2015, MacBook Pro. And it's been a really good experience thus far. I just look forward to getting my framework, and I'll have Solus on that. But currently I do have Solus on the T420 ThinkPad.
Oh, ThinkPads are so rugged. I love them.
They absolutely are. And that's why I'm a big fan of the brand. So it's just that going to the framework will be my first time having a new machine. Everything else I've ever had has always been used, or I managed to get it as a gift or something, and it was already used. But I appreciate moving towards that new experience, so to speak. But yeah, I definitely like the idea of having different operating systems, because each one has strengths, each one has weaknesses. I'll find that I appreciate Linux in a certain way, even more since I've been using Mac OS X. But then there's certain aspects of Mac OS X that I really like when it comes to interoperate. When you got things that work with multiple devices, like iCloud, I really like that. I really like the notes, and it's just it's convenient in certain ways. And if I could emulate that on Linux, oh my goodness, I would take over.
And one of my favorite things about Mac OS and Linux together is that whenever I throw in a new installation of Linux, it doesn't matter what it is, it sees the Mac OS immediately, and I can just share and drop files because I have everything backed up onto an 8 terabyte drive, my Mac, so that I can access all my important documents and stuff from any machine. Because for some reason it takes a little bit of effort to get sometimes to get the Linux machines to like a Windows machine. Sometimes you have to edit a file and do this, that, and the other thing. So, I'll just use the Mac for that. And
well, Windows doesn't play nice anyway, so that's to be expected.
Windows, the only time Windows plays nice, and if you're lucky, that happens is when it's gaming. You know, and then you still get the crashes.
From what I understand, it's just it's a Samba thing. I believe Windows still uses a semi uh d- d- a lot of like default Linux configs will just have like that part disabled, and you have to manually turn that
Yeah.
on because it's like we're not
Mhm.
going to touch that.
Yep. Change one little number.
Yep. And there's been some like patches to Samba, like there was a big issue a while back, but it's still just frustrating.
Yeah, I gave
and-
up trying to get everything working with the Windows machine. It's like, you know
Yeah.
what? I got the Windows working machine working with the Mac. So I moved everything from the Windows that I needed to access from anywhere to the Mac's external hard drive. And then that way it just connects and goes.
Swift, you mentioned you were getting a framework to run Solus on.
Toys.
First off, congrats when that happens. That's awesome. One thing I would recommend, because I don't know what like how the Solus support is, but the framework forums are so incredibly valuable. There are some super helpful people on there. I've read some pretty awesome threads that have helped me solve stuff like not even on a framework machine, you know? So
Mhm.
like they have a wealth of knowledge in that forum. So 100% would recommend utilizing that.
Oh, that's
oh.
good. I look forward to it. I have spoken to Extra Do Guy. That might be a familiar handle. If you're familiar with Jupiter Broadcasting, he used to be on there with Chris Fisher. And
Okay.
so I
Matt,
talked to him, said
um,
Solus would be just fine on there.
I love that.
Nate, you have one of those, right?
Yep,
The
I use a
framework?
framework every
Okay.
day. That's my main work / home
thought so.
machine is a framework, and then also at the two processing plants that I work at, I think we have somewhere between 20 and 30 framework laptops there now.
What?
So we're
Nice.
we have
So
a
you guys
business
keeping
relationship.
framework in business, in other words. Gotcha.
Well, I mean, it's kind of one of those things, you know. If people keep buying their stuff, then they'll keep making it.
Yep.
I just hope
and
they
they'll
don't
make
sell out to like a Dell or HP. Nothing
God, I
against
hope
Dell or
not.
HP. I just hope they just don't, because
Yeah,
I think
keep it
frameworks are a good thing going. I like
smaller.
smaller companies. I think are just I enjoy
Yep.
working with them. You know,
Hey,
you do spend
well-
a little bit more for a framework. It's it's more than going
Mhm.
to Best Buy, but it's a well built machine. It's quality. It's easy to work on. And if you break it, it's easy to work on. So
Excuse me.
real clever manufacturing for sure. And so anyway,
All I gotta say about smaller companies is that they seem to care about their customers more because
Yes.
they need them more.
And see, that was the thing, when I was considering, because I've been following framework since the very beginning.
Vince!
And it's been about 5 years now. And I appreciate the different videos that the actual founder, Narav, likes to put out. And I get it. And I really liked it because I was always a fan of those ThinkPads that we speak of as being classic, that you can put in a new CPU, put in your RAM, and just drive it to your heart's content. And I look at the framework and it's almost like this is what that should have become over time. It's just that it just ends up being a different company. But I really appreciate that concept of being able to work on my own stuff. I feel like you don't really own it unless you can get in there and really make it yours, really make it something that is a project, so to speak.
So
And over time, you kind of watch it grow.
Swift, I put a link into the meeting chat as well as the YouTube chat. Check out what somebody did with a ThinkPad butterfly and a framework mainboard. It is really cool. It's on the framework community forum.
That's good.
And so they took the time they did an amazing job here. I think if you just check it out, you will probably think it's pretty darn cool. Anyway, so if you like the butterfly keyboards from the ThinkPad had, this is a great way, I think, to reutilize that. So
That's cool.
yeah.
But before Framework and a lot of these companies came around back in the day, I was always recommending that people would buy enterprise class machines instead of the consumer class machines. One example would be like Dell. Instead of getting like an Inspiron, you get like a Dell Latitude laptop.
Mm-hmm.
and one screw on the back panel, the whole thing comes off. Every piece, even the CPU, was removable in that laptop. You could even swap the CPU. And even today, you can still buy parts for those things. There's a website that's dedicated to old Dell Latitude parts. So, but the newer Latitudes are not like that anymore. They're starting to look like every other Ultrabook in the world. So, but the enterprise class computer, they kept with that for a lot longer than the consumer grade stuff did. And even today, I think there's some benefits in getting an enterprise hardware over a consumer hardware. You just that they're meant to be used for longer periods of time. They're meant to be serviced, where a lot of the consumer stuff is just throwaway stuff. It's just a different market.
I'd say another appeal of them to me, to be honest with you, is that they tend to just look less stupid. That like there's some consumer products that have some weird design quirks or whatever because they want to get your attention with it. And then you look at like the enterprise counterpart. It's spec wise, it's exactly the same, except you know, it's maybe like a square. It's thin. It's simple. It doesn't have like a weird RGB like bump on the back for some reason, or it doesn't have some ridiculous thing. And boy, I am one for like great design and presentation, but some of these consumer laptops are just really they just do some dumb stuff. Like you spent money on that. Are you kidding me? Like you could have just developed a much more solid device, saved that money, put it somewhere
Well,
else. Like
it's flashy and shiny, and it's good, an impulse buy. But good design is timeless. You get that computer with all the RGB and stuff. When you saw it at the store, oh, that's really cool, and then 3 months later, you're tired of it and it's dumb. But you get like a nice. I'm not really a Mac user, but one example is like the classic Mac Pro. Even today, that thing still looks great.
Yeah,
It's
it
that's
does.
solid. That's good design.
yeah, it's
I
just
actually have the original Mac Pro on one, and I can't get myself to throw away that case, even though it doesn't do anything. Power supply been dead long time ago. Everything else, isn't functional, but I just love that case, and
I get it.
that
I have one of
that's
those right
beautiful.
down there, right there.
No, I think Apple kind of screwed it up with the trash can that they made, but
I like my trash can.
I think the
But-
trash can is like one of the coolest designs, honestly.
My brother
I
was
really
my
do.
brother was standing right here, and he heard that somebody's mentioned trash can, didn't like it. He's like, "I like my trash can."
well, from a design point of view, it's actually a really good idea. The way that it's constructed with like the air going up. So, I mean, from a design
Yeah.
and engineering perspective, it's great.
It looks
but,
cool.
But just as a desk thing, it just looks weird to me. I kind of like the older Mac
Yeah.
Pro kind of look.
Yeah,
and
he
then they
has
came out with
his
that one
behind a
that-
monitor, so he doesn't have to look at it. So that's how.
Yeah. Well, and then they came out with that one that looked like a giant cheese grater. That one.
Oh goodness!
That's the one I have right down here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Never regret
That's
getting rid
the one
of
that's
mine.
running Fedora.
Yeah, they're great computers though, but it's
yeah.
some of the design choices are questionable.
I really enjoy the way that they have the motherboard trays. I really
Yeah.
like that. You just pop them out, slide them out, fix
That
everything,
was
slide
one
it
of the
back in.
things that
Yeah, I
I
love
liked, and I was actually hoping at some point to have like a multiple boot kind of situation going on with mine, and
HP actually made an enterprise desktop that kind of looked like the original Mac Pro with the
Mhm.
different trays and stuff in it, hot swap stuff. But that's another example of consumer grade versus enterprise grade. That HP computer was, I forget what it was called. It was one of the top of the line enterprise ones, but it looked like the PC version of the Mac Pro. It was just completely beautiful on the inside.
Mhm.
But then you look at the HP computer thing, it looked like a homemade bomb from a movie in the 90s. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
slapped
Let's do it.
together with no care whatsoever. But
Do you know what else is
it's a
a
different market.
great looking case? I'm watching I have another stream going over here. My friend Mike from the Mac community. He's working on a Sun System Ultra 40 M2, and that case is. I mean, they have like a little mini fans that clip over the memory. keep them cool. They have fans that go right onto the hard drive bays. There's 8 hard drive bays. It's just really, really nice and really cool looking case. I wish people still make cases like that, not to get all these little weird windows and blinky lights and stuff that doesn't actually, have
No,
any purpose.
There's
Definitely.
one case that I used to really like. I forget the name of it, but it wasn't. It wasn't a tower case. It was just like a flat plate, and then the hard drives and the CPU were like all in their own individual compartments mounted to this thing. It was really, really cool. I can't remember what it was called though.
Sorry, my cat
so-
just licked all my pretzels.
Adam shared with me a few days ago, maybe a week ago now, a very interesting laptop, and I'll put a link to that in the chat. It's from Asus. Their new ZenBook. Have you seen this?
Mm.
I don't know that I would be necessarily in the market for it, but I think it's a really neat idea. And Linus Tech Tips did a pretty cool review about it. But essentially, it's the laptop itself is 2 screens. I don't know how serviceable this thing is going to be. And then there's a removable keyboard, so you can actually have a dual display system, or it can just be used like a regular laptop with one display. And don't know how Linux friendly that would be, but yeah, Adam shared that with me. I thought it was a really neat idea. Not sure I'd be in the market for such a thing, but still, nonetheless, pretty cool in my opinion.
It might be pretty cool, but to me, it seems like that's more stuff to break on here.
I will say, like Asus always has really cool devices like this. And generally, like, it's not like my kind of device. Like, I love just like a standard laptop thing.
Mhm.
Asus has some of the like nicest spec'd, like well-designed, simple laptops out there with like a decent chunk of power. Like they're throwing OLEDs even in their 1080p laptops, so like even if you're getting like the lower resolution, you're getting a really good display. And obviously each one of them, you're not paying less than $1,000 for any Asus laptop, but if you're paying, $1,100 for an HP laptop, you're not getting an OLED most of the time anyway, so you might as well just go that route. But that is a really, really neat looking machine. I have no idea how you would even begin to start supporting an operating system with that interface. It's 2 screens, but I mean, well, it's 2 screens, it's 2 monitors. Easy.
Well,
Look, I figured it out, guys. I'm a genius.
The interesting thing is it has, so when the keyboard is docked,
Magnetic.
I don't know how to describe it, it's magnetically attached, it turns off the lower screen, and then it's basically a USB connection to the keyboard. And we disconnect it, then it goes into Bluetooth, and it's a seamless process,
Mhm.
which I believe should be just the same in like Plasma. I think the way Plasma works, it should grab a USB device. So I don't know how the device itself, if it just switches over, just turns on the Bluetooth when it's off, or I don't know how it works. It would be
It's
fun
probably
to play
something
with.
to do with the magnetic connection.
Yeah,
It kind of reminds me of the early the Asus when the Android tablets were first coming out and the iPads were first coming out. Asus had this tablet that had like a detachable keyboard that would just lock into the bottom of the tablet, and it would basically turn it into a laptop. They
Yep,
were
the
the first
Transformer
ones
Prime.
to do something. Yeah, that's what that was a nice little device. But
I like the name of
these
it.
days, though. I think these days, if you're in the market for like a budget laptop, I kind of like the stuff Acer's putting out now. They have some nice products for the money. I got one in the other room actually. We got it for my wife. It's we paid like right around $400 for it, and it's an octa-core AMD. It's 16 gigs of RAM, backlit keyboard. 1080p screen. It's a lot of laptop for $400. It's real good.
If you guys are looking for like a basic thing, would you guys consider like a Chromebook, a nice Chromebook?
I think it
I have
depends.
4 of them. I have 4 Chromebooks, and I've got problems with every single one of them.
Yeah,
Oh, dang.
to me, Chromebooks nothing but nightmares. I worked with them when I worked for Bank of America, and they are just, when you're trying to utilize, virtual machines, log into, even they're simply just there to log into a virtual machine. Even that thing they couldn't really do without issues.
Well, the problem I have with mine, 3 of them: a Samsung, Acer C720 and the C740. They all have the exact same problem where every 30 to 45 seconds, the Wi-Fi would just disconnect. It would just disconnect
really
and
odd.
reconnect, and then disconnect and reconnect. This is a known bug in Chrome OS. It's published on the Google website. They never fixed it in the past like 8 years. It's. I talked to some people that had that problem, and they're still having the problem even with the new ones.
I do know
So-
there are some Chromebook devices on the market that had funky Wi-Fi modems, and it would cause them to do that. Most of them don't do that though. I mean, they are internet first devices, and for the most part, they tend to, even on mesh networks, connect very well. So it's really kind of a waste of money, unfortunately, for those people. That's a shame.
And then the downside is, I mean, I can't remember if so I've actually never had a Chromebook in front of me, and I can't remember what ports they actually have. But I mean, I guess you could always get, because I don't think they came with Ethernet. So I think you'd have to get a dongle for that.
It depends on which Chromebook you get. I think one of the things about Chromebooks that people tend to forget, they're not quite like MacBooks where like they're generally very similar across the lineup. There is a wide variety of them. There are gaming Chromebooks out there that have Ethernet ports, USB-A ports, 120 hertz screens, RGB keyboards. Like it really, there's no such thing as like a Chromebook, if that makes sense. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Like I've gotten some pretty bad ones, but I've also gotten some really good ones that are like directly comparable to their Windows counterparts and like $100 cheaper. So it really depends on which one you get.
I've been really lucky then because I remember one of the earliest. I think I got one of the first Samsung Chromebooks. Remember that sleek looking, almost looking like those early MacBooks.
Oh yes,
Airs almost.
yeah.
That one lasted forever. It was amazing, and I was almost like I wish it wasn't so slow because the hardware just was so solid. And the one that I have now, it's part-time for volunteering stuff for the church. I got to give back now, but man, that thing is snappy, and doesn't slow down. And with the battery life, it's almost like I'm using an ARM processor, but I'm not. It's x86 version. And
It really is the
happy.
only time like an x86 machine has given me that good battery life. It's impressive.
Yeah.
And I can run Linux apps. Like I've written articles about me like editing videos in Kdenlive on Chromebooks. Like it's just a thing now. But it definitely hasn't always been that way. But yeah, Android apps. I actually have a better time doing some things on a Chromebook than I do on both a Windows or a Mac machine because I can be running Google Photos as an app that will automatically sync some stuff back and forth between my phone that will allow me to like edit things, and then the Canon Connect app, which is a like an Android app that will wirelessly connect to your camera and sync stuff back and forth. That's just an Android app on my Chromebook. And then Sync Thing will dump those to whatever server I need them on. Because all of that Linux stuff runs. It's basically like 3 ecosystems in one. So it's kind of impressive. You just got to make sure you don't get the bad hardware.
That Android layer is money.
I did
a lot
like-
of people sleep on that.
I did like my Chromebooks when they worked, but I just the hardware has just been really flaky on them, and mostly with networking. But yeah, I mean these days a device like that for the average person is probably a good choice because I mean Android is the most popular operating system now. It's most people have Android, so if you have an actual laptop like form factor device that you could use that can incorporate a lot of that same ecosystem, I think most people would probably be happy with that. At least non-techies, people, just the average Joe user. So I think they are useful devices, but I just have kind of a sore spot for Google, so I kind of try to avoid Google products. But
I had a Google Sheet disappear on me.
Oh boy.
And not happy about
Hey,
it.
Joe.
And it was a reading list, and some of the books that were listed on there were questionable, banned books, and That's a interest of mine. I'm a reader, and I like to read all kinds of stuff. And I guess
Nice.
one of those books was a tripwire for Google, and it removed it. So
But
it got me
it's kind of like
seriously thinking about leaving.
it's kind of like Amazon's very ironic decision of removing the book 1984.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
They did
yeah, I
that?
heard
What?
about
That's a
that.
good
Yeah,
book.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did that.
yeah, but
years
I
ago.
mean, it's like this is exactly what the book was talking about. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
It was supposedly a licensing thing, but
yeah, but it's
Whatever.
it's
It's
ironic.
just ironic.
But-
Yeah.
yeah,
Don't you think?
My problem with Google was I've lost my entire YouTube channel over some Google nonsense.
Oh,
The
wow.
if you remember that hack that got Linus Tech Tips, the
PDF?
the session cookie hijacking thing
Mm.
that happened to me and a couple of other channels that I knew about. All of these guys had their YouTube rep or however the heck you get one of those, and they were back up in like 3 or 4 hours. I emailed Google and YouTube and pretty much every contact source I could find, emails, customer support numbers, even the hidden emails that the developers use. I emailed everybody, got zero response, and my YouTube channel just disappeared. So it's like, well, they only care about people that make the money.
Wow.
They can just, kick rocks. So that's kind of been my attitude towards Google ever since.
I was mad when Linus Tech Tips did the Linux challenge, and he uninstalled Pop! OS desktop environment by accident. And
Yeah, but
they
I mean-
caused
Accident.
well, he wasn't paying attention. That's his fault. But
I will say though, I
he-
think considering the response from both the developers that handle the package manager thing and the general Linux community as a whole, it's pretty clear that shouldn't have even been possible.
That was my point. Is that it's sad that it takes a big YouTuber to conjure up this awareness of usability. To meanwhile, people like me and probably Schykle too, who are really big on UX stuff, we're just pulling our hair out. Like, we could just do this better if we just did that.
Like, we know there's a solution. We're like,
Yeah.
the part of your system that is installing Steam shouldn't even be touching your graphics. Like, those two things should never intermingle. That shouldn't even be technically possible. And the fact that it was is a huge red flag for the system as a whole.
But I think it's one of these issues with apt where they tie so many things into a meta package where you just can't separate them from one another, and then you end up with stuff like that.
Those meta
Daisy
packages are a
chaining.
mess. They're a huge mess. I can't.
Well, on
I think-
Arch, you can have meta packages, but even after you install the meta packages, you're still able to pull individual pieces of it back out
Yeah.
without removing the entire meta package. You
I went
cannot
to
do that
remove
with apt.
the app in
Mhm.
Ubuntu that's like the select your language whatever thing, because for some reason Ubuntu has it like an app on your apps menu. It was like, I don't need that, whatever. And removing that will uninstall GNOME Shell, like the whole thing gone. Ubuntu desktop, everything gone. And I'm like, why is that a hard dependency? Because it's not a hard dependency in any other distro.
I don't know if it's still the case, but there was a similar issue with X Ubuntu. If you removed the GNOME games, it would remove XFCE. I don't know if that's still a thing, but it was.
I do
at one
remember
point.
that at a time, yeah.
That is a danger with some of these like less supported distros where they don't really know exactly. Not to say they don't know what they're doing, but they may not know the severity of their impact, and so.
But it's also I wouldn't say it's the fault of apt specifically, but it's the way they're packaging these things into meta packages, and you can't break out of it. With Pac-Man on Arch, like I said, you can install a meta package like the XFCE goodies package with all the extra suite. But let's say that I don't like the image viewer it comes with. I can install that meta package and get all the other stuff, and then I can just remove that one app back out.
There's
If
something
you're on if you're on like Ubuntu, you can't do that. If you remove that one package, the whole meta package is going with it. So it's just,
This is something that Zipper does really well. It's like I will say, like, Zipper may not be fast sometimes, but boy, have I been able to tweak and remove packages and completely avoid other things way easier than almost any other package manager. DNF is probably the only other one.
Yeah, DNF is a really powerful package manager, but it always just feels kind of slow to me. That's the only thing. It's just it's not as responsive as like Pac-Man and even apt at times. It's
Yeah, they've
just-
had issues. I think the biggest holdback for them has been that like every so often they will always recheck the repos, even if it's only been like less than a minute or something ridiculous. I don't it will always check even when it's not necessary. You could be uninstalling a package and it'll check or something.
Yep.
It's weird. I don't know if they've fixed that yet, but
I think my biggest annoyance with it is I just started learning Fedora. I mean,
DNF.
distro hopping. I played with it
Yep.
5 minutes here and there, but never really gave it a true shot until Fedora, whatever the last
40?
one was, the 40.
Mhm.
So, and then I spent time learning DNF and the commands, and then in
Yep.
41, they changed half of the command aliases, so the stuff
Yep.
I learned there doesn't work anymore. And it's like, why the heck did you do that?
yeah,
would say
they
in a way,
DNF
they-
5 or something.
They change it for the better though. Because DNF was kind of kludgy before, and then now it's basically I'm not gonna say perfect because nothing's perfect, but it's pretty darn great. I like DNF quite a lot.
They definitely took feedback and implemented it, which is
Yep.
something that is really hard for developers to do sometimes because we want
Yeah.
things to work the way we've designed them to work.
Well, it depends on the project though. Depends on the project.
Fedora has
I
been
think I think maybe Debian might want to adopt some features from the Nala front end for apt. I think that might be beneficial too, because apt it works, but it's a dinosaur. It's
And speaking of that, remember that Sun microsystem I was talking about? I'm still watching the stream over here, and he just installed Linux Mint on it.
That's incredible. On that? No
Who did?
way.
Wait,
Mike.
Who's
His name is Mike. He's Mike's Mess on
Okay.
on YouTube, and he just he's a Sun Ultra 40 M2 now running Mint.
That's so cool. That's
So
crazy.
a brand new Mint, and what specs are we talking?
I have no idea what the specs are. It's a base. You can if you look up Sun Ultra 40, you can. It'll tell you the specs for it. I have no idea. I have him on mute
'Cause
right now.
I kind of got a thing for Linux. I remember they had this actual Linux magazine where they were putting Linux on different objects like Xbox, on Wii. There was one for it's another like iPod, pretty much Linux on everything that I could imagine, and it was so cool.
I'll tell you,
little
that's the
turd.
reason I no longer have a Wii.
Oh,
It was
I
so
tried
worth it
to.
though.
I tried to put a full-blown Linux distro in my old Chromebook because it's too old to be supported
grief,
anymore.
I remember that, Matt. That
It failed. I took the right protection screw out, did everything like they said. It just wouldn't do
It wouldn't
anything.
load.
So,
Yeah, they
So-
really
yeah.
made that difficult.
So speaking of Chromebooks, so I got my octogenarian mother a Chromebook with a touchscreen, and she wanted to learn to type again, and the typing.com was fine, but I ended up installing the Linux
yeah.
stuff in it,
I
and then
remember that.
I installed a bunch of flat packs of different like applications to play with, different things, to kind of keep her mind going and whatnot, for as long.
Do you remember Sugar? It was like this educational
They still have it.
OS, a distro
Yeah.
with
Fedora
Linux.
still has it. Yeah.
They had a lot of
Oh, I
stuff.
thought you were talking about the Maroon 5 song.
No,
I thought you were
Yes,
talking
please.
I thought you were talking about the thing I put in cookies.
no. But they had it had a lot of what you're talking about for your mom. It had stuff like that and the little games and whatnot. It's been a long time, but you just made me think of that, and
I'll
I
have to
thought
look
it was cool to have something where a person, it's like an educational setup where you're trying to get them to learn how to do this and her. Yeah. That the Fedora Sugar.
My
spin.
mom's computer had Linux Mint on it, but it's so old that the graphics drivers no longer exist in the Linux kernel. So it's pretty
Dang.
old.
That's got to be old.
Got birds
But
like
it,
that
it
being.
will still run Windows 10 LTSC, surprisingly enough. But that's going to be the end of the line for that machine.
I'm glad you mentioned graphics drivers. I don't know if y'all saw this last September. Wow, that feels like it was forever ago. It was like 2 months ago. But there was an article on Phoronix that was mentioning that the AMD GPU driver in the Linux kernel is just like too dang big. Like it's just huge. There's like 6 something million lines of code in it or whatever, but a lot of people with AMD machines, you boot up your machine and you get the fancy little splash screen and then you get to your desktop and everything's clean and simple. It will just time out waiting for the GPU driver to load and you'll get the garbled, all the text that flies by instead of the pretty nice splash screen. And most of it is just like kernel headers. It's not even like it's just there's just too much stuff in there.
I hadn't heard that.
So I've jumped back onto.
Well, I haven't noticed that. I have AMD graphics cards, but I don't like graphic boot. I purposely changed the boot line and grub to boot verbose. So I like the text going by because I like to see what's going on. So maybe that's why I haven't noticed.
I see, man, I know it's super useful, but I like, if I know there's stuff underneath, it makes me uncomfortable, despite the fact that I'm fiddling with all this stuff. If I see something go by and I'm like, wait, what was that? The whole thing's ruined for me. I don't know why. It's a problem that I have.
Well, when I installed Fedora, the Plymouth screen was broken though on this. It would come up gray with like 3 little dots up in the left.
Oh yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, but I usually disable that and just run text boot. I just like it better.
So not to do a hard pivot, but I do want to talk about something I thought was pretty interesting that came out in the last couple of weeks. So has anybody here been following the Legion Go line of products? And the
I've
Legion.
heard of them. That's about as much.
I have
as
the original one.
I think I'm familiar with the article you're talking about.
So the Legion Go S is going to have Steam installed by default, SteamOS installed by default, which I thought was really interesting. And I really wanted to hear Adam's opinion on what you think this means for gaming in general. So like Marvel, what was it called? Marvel.
Marvel Rivals.
Marvel Rivals. So
Rivals,
they had an issue where a bunch of Mac and Linux users got like banned and everything else because the system thought it was cheating, and so they went and they kind of fixed things because they want it to be a platform that anybody can play on, and so they kind of did the opposite of like the Apex Legends and Rockstar with the GTA Online and everything else, which I thought was an interesting development because it's because it is. So also then I was seeing Lenovo building the Legion Go S, which doesn't have the removable switch style handle things. What do you think of that, Matt? Adam, what do you think of the removable Joy-Con things?
Okay.
Versus having it soldered on.
Context.
Sure.
I have the original Legion Go with the detachable stuff with Windows.
Mm-hmm.
The detachable things are really neat. They're really good for people who don't really like want to like sit there and hold the thing. So it has a kickstand, and you can like just kind of set it up there and detach the things and play that way. Also, the right Joy-Con, for lack of a better word, can also be a mouse. So it has like a FPS mode, as they call it. It's a little switch on the bottom, and it comes with a little puck that you set the controller in, and it works as like a vertical mouse on the surface. They work really well. In fact, I have actually tried Bazite, if you're familiar with that. That's one of the universal blue things. Bazite on the Legion Go, those Joy-Cons work just as they're supposed to. So that's kind of neat. So I'm not too surprised that they would be working in SteamOS, since the community's already figured that one out, right? But I think they're great. I think a sort of accessibility thing is people who, have a hard time physically holding a unit, being able to have the controllers to their side or sitting their hands in their lap and use it is pretty good for accessibility. but they are very good. They're high quality. The only beef I have with the Legion Go is the speakers are complete booty. They're not great at all. And I'm hoping that the Legion Go S and the Legion Go 2 will solve those speaker problems.
So, are you surprised that they are, that they're wanting to put SteamOS on there? I know there's complaints
No.
that Windows 11 doesn't do well in handhelds, but there's also initiative from Microsoft to improve Windows 11 so it does work better in a handheld form factor. I mean, they got the money to invest, so I'm sure they're going to be able to squeeze something out here pretty soon, which I think is good.
I think I'm not surprised that SteamOS is on these devices. It was kind of a matter of time, to be honest. But I appreciate that Valve is not trying to focus SteamOS as a general OS. That they themselves, their engineering efforts for that are pretty much entirely targeting handhelds. And their words is that, if you want to go and install SteamOS on your own desktop or whatever, if you got the right hardware, go ahead. But their main concern is getting this on handhelds right now. And that includes
That's the
other
market.
devices, yeah. So not surprised that it's there. I guess more it's kind of interesting because they're sort of now officially, it's a vetted like official thing, but the community over like the Bazite folks and other distros have been doing a ton of work to make these work way before Valve ever made their anointed version with this Legion Go S. So it's kind of, in my opinion, it kind of takes the wind out of the sails because it's like, yeah, we've had this for months because everyone else figured this out before it was official. So I don't know. It's neat, and I'm glad it's an option, but can't say it's like all that groundbreaking to me because it's kind of already been a solved problem.
Well, the fact that they're working with another manufacturer, that I think is the part that I'm kind of excited about.
I'm not
'cause it means
surprised by that either.
Yeah. Do you think this
I mean, that's what the whole Steam machines back in the mid 2010s. That was
Right.
entirely working with OEMs. So, like, they're not a company that is known for just making their own stuff. Their Vive headset was with HTC, for example. So I'm not actually too surprised that they're working with OEMs at all.
So do you look at this as a do you think they're going to abandon their SteamOS, or is that still going to be like the reference machine for the SteamOS platform?
You mean the
'Cause
Steam
it's-
Deck thing? No.
Yeah.
The
No,
Steam
okay.
Deck, I think the Steam Deck will be the sort of Halo product that shows what's possible on a handheld, right?
Yep.
Like
Okay.
I think that's their goal, is to future Steam Deck versions will include advancements that basically the OEMs will then copy, right? I mean, that's largely what's happened, right? So I think they see the Steam Deck as sort of this is the thing that sets the bar and everyone else makes their version of it, right? Especially when it comes to SteamOS devices. It's kind of like, if you get a Pixel phone, you get a lot of Google integration because it's Google's OS and they add a bunch of Google stuff. And then you get another phone like a Samsung or whatever else, and it has its own stuff, but you'll never get that pure Google goodness unless you get Google's phone, right? And this is kind of the same thing. Like if you want like the best that SteamOS can offer, likely you'll end up with a Steam Deck, right? Not a third party thing. But that doesn't mean the third parties will be bad choices, just that maybe the prime SteamOS features come to the deck first, right?
Right. Proprietary goes there first and then branches off to other. Hey, Joe.
That's my
Hey,
guess.
Vince.
Got Joe and Vince. Yeah, they hobbled into the Linux Saloon.
Mm-hmm.
How are you guys?
Well, I promised you I'd try to jump in sometime. I figured it was time for one of the OG fiddle guys to come on. So
That's right. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you again, man.
Yeah,
And I'm
good to
only
see you,
younger
Joe.
Jewish.
Vince is an OG. Would you consider he's an old guard or
Who
original?
you calling
gangster?
old, Nate?
This has been
I'm
around
I'm the
Ah,
same
since
age
time
as you,
immemorial.
remember?
yeah,
Yeah, but
I'm
I'm not
talking
actually.
in the community.
I am.
Right. Don't we
I-
share a
this is-
birthday?
This is a bragging moment. but I am the first guest on Biddle, so I will
That's
always
right.
maintain that title.
You and also Matt Dark One. He was a first
Matt
guest.
too, yeah.
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 I tried getting him on tonight. He was like, "What's the topic?"
Yeah.
So it's open mic night. Kind of what we talked about in
Yeah.
Linux Out Loud, and he just
No,
hadn't
just
responded
all
to me.
horsing aside. No, I've been wanting to come on for a while and stuff, and tonight just happened to be a good night for it. Half the time now we got the grandkids running around, and it's usually too noisy, and so
Oh, that's fine.
Mm.
Jason
Yeah.
Starbuck, he has cats running around and his brother wagging things at him, so that's fine.
yeah,
Yep, see,
Yeah.
cat. I'm only up to 11 cats, Joe. Just 11.
Only.
Only 11.
I heard a little bit of. I was listening in a little bit, of course, before I could jump in, and I heard you talking about the AMD drivers and stuff. I've been running.
Mhm.
I had NVIDIA for a long time, and I'm on a 6800 XT on here, and
Yep.
I haven't had any issues with this at all. It's just been seamless.
That is
And
a
I'm not
great
saying
card.
that to rub it in. I'm just saying my experience.
Yep.
It's been really good.
Oh yeah.
The funny thing is I've gone full circle a few times. I was on Manjaro for probably a couple years until they did a major update and it broke. So, which is typical. But then I was on MX. I love KDE, which was Manjaro was KDE. So I was on MX KDE for a long time, and I started having some issues with it and some freezes and weird stuff going on. And I have to admit, I switched off of that. I'm back on Mint now again. But I started having the same problems with that, only to finally put two and two together. And because see, we're so fast to blame our system, our operating system.
Right.
I had upgraded the RAM in here from 3200 to 3600, and an oversight on my part was it was basically the how you have the DOHC or
Yep.
XMP. Well, this was geared more toward Intel, and
so it's
I
XMP,
pulled that
not
RAM
DOHC.
out, put a brand new kit of 3200 I had sitting on the shelf, put it back in, went in, and then I started having some issues, and I go, duh, I didn't go back in and change it in the BIOS. So I went in the BIOS, and it's been rock solid since. So MX probably didn't have a darn problem. It was just the problem was
RAM.
between the seat and the keyboard, so
Yes.
Pepcat.
it happens. So even
Yep.
enthusiasts or like myself working and building computers or whatever, you still can make mistakes, and
Oh yeah.
I just
Yep.
don't like, and I'm admitting that because, like I said, the first thing that a lot of us tend to do is want to blame the operating systems, and yeah, they all have problems, from
Yeah, I
time to
did that.
time.
I did that same situation with my Windows machine. It was started blue screening all the time, and it was giving me a memory. It was giving me a memory management issue. So I, instead of doing a MIM test or something like that, testing the RAM, I just wiped the whole thing and put Windows back on. Of course, the issue continued. Then I did a MIM test, and I had, for whatever reason, we had 32 gigs of RAM, but it was 8x4. So I took all that out, and I went by 16x2.
Yep.
And I got and there was a way the machine runs smoother and runs faster, and it was all because a simple thing. I blame the OS.
Well, and that's the mistake a lot of people make. They think loading up all 4 slots in here is the way to go, when in fact it actually could reduce your memory effectiveness. I have 2x16s in here as well, and I haven't ever had a problem with it. So I do, and I did hear Matt, I think, talking earlier about I think it was Fedora, if I'm not mistaken. But I actually did load up an ISO of the KDE version, the Fedora 41, and I've got it on a test laptop here, and I do have a second drive in here that, believe it or not, used to have Windows for the occasional game that I never played. So I just wiped it, and I actually am going to try it on there because I tried on here with using DNF. DNF seemed to work pretty well, and it's all getting used to it, but it's kind of fun. I still experiment a little bit, but now that I've been around a while, I try to just find something that works and stay on it,
Right.
So
See, that's when people tell me, like when I was back when I started hanging out with you guys and stuff way back in the old days, Rocco and stuff. I did all the hopping,
Yep.
but I never did it. I hated hate's a strong word, dislike, did not like to do virtual machines. I liked everything on real hardware. Hence the reason I have 12 computers.
Yeah.
So I have everything, they're not the fanciest. They're not, I got a 2009 Mac Pro. I have a 2013 old Mac, old machines, but they're perfect for Linux testing or just learning to see if I like something and put it on a main machine, on a newer machine or whatever. And I like to play around. People ask me, why do you have so many different distros? I always said, well, I want to try out the different package managers. I want to learn DNF. I want to learn Pacman. I want to learn this. I want to learn that, because each of them are different.
I didn't hear zipper in that. I was.
Nope, I did not. There was no zipper. What is that? What's that from?
OpenSUSE.
I did
Oh,
run
that's that
OpenSUSE
green one that
a
kinda looks like
long
mint.
time ago, but I couldn't get it for whatever reason. I was having issues with it, and I was just like, it was on an old laptop, and I was like, you know what? We'll put that to the side. I think that one's still in the closet. I never picked it up again. But I think I broke the monitor ribbon on that one actually.
OpenSUSE is awesome. In regards to like installing it, like I have this issue with like file systems and drives. Like I have a lot of storage and nothing to do with it, but like setting up a system and having like being able to set up a RAID array as like a storage volume in the OpenSUSE installer, as well as tweaking like my bootloader config stuff in the OpenSUSE installer before it's even like running is just so good. They really nailed that stuff. Turning secure boot on and off, making sure Grub's not looking for other operating systems. All of that stuff is right there in the installer. It's remarkable.
Also, if you're building like a headless system that has no graphics output, it automatically
Yep.
detects and then will actually it'll set up a serial link as well.
That's why I started using OpenSUSE on my servers, is because I converted my desktop. I got the GPU out of there. I didn't, wasn't using it as a desktop anymore, and I was like, I can still run it as a server, and
remote into it. Blah blah blah.
it worked perfectly. I was like, this is the least trouble I've ever had. Like previously, I would try and hook up a monitor to something and temporarily throw a GPU in there. It was a mess, but just didn't have to do that anymore.
I'm still using a good old, just a basic installation of just a simple Windows 11 I just have a file server, so I don't have anything like fancy where I need like a server installation. But I do have 20 terabytes of space in there just so I can have redundant backups.
That's the best.
And because, we had the house fire in 2014 and we lost everything because we didn't, think backups. We didn't think, we're going to need that. Yeah. If anybody out there in the interwebs, back up. Back up for your backups for your backups.
Yep.
3 locations.
This is true.
Yep.
I want to
have
ask
an
you
internal,
guys something if I can.
I got an internal backup, 2 externals, and the cloud.
Yep. You gotta have it. You gotta have an off-site source, whether it's just I know some people take like an external hard drive, and what they do is they back it up and bring it to like a family member's house, leave it there, and then, or some people have a system at the family member's house and just remote into it. And
so
I prefer cloud myself.
Two buildings that are 300 feet away from each other. Is that considered off-site then?
As long as if they're that far apart, the chances of them both burning down are slim. So yes, I would consider that off-site, but I still recommend a cloud solution.
Yeah,
Just BTRFS send snapshot.
Oh, ButterFS!
The whole like ButterFS send thing, I don't know how to manage that properly. Just
That's
FYI.
I don't trust programs to do it for me. I like to do it all manually. Personally, I like if I need to do a backup, I'll just go and drag and drop, and let it do its thing. And then the other than click and like upload. I don't know what's really being uploaded.
The reason that I've stopped doing that is mostly just because, like, I as a user am way more likely to forget things than like a file system snapshot, especially because things like ButterFS and ZFS do like integrity checking for me. It's actually like really easy for files to get corrupted like during transfer. But you'll know when something's amiss if you're using either of those things. I just don't trust myself, basically.
Yeah, I do the old good old fashioned. I had like I said, I had the 8 terabyte external drive on my Mac and on my file server, so everything's backed up two different drives on the file server. So two different
Do you do
4
like
terabyte
rsync or
drives.
something?
No, manual, just drag and drop.
Wow. Okay.
Sometimes it takes a while to do it because I go from one drive to another drive to another drive, and then I back it up to the cloud. I do this probably once a month. I mean, granted, most of the stuff that I have on there is probably like tax information and cat pics. I mean,
Cat pics are
I don't
important.
have anything super fancy. Boy, especially when you have like
11.
you know, like
That's like 11 different
11
albums.
cat. Well, 11 kids, not even 11 cats. I have over 100 gigs
One
of pics.
one problem that I have with one of my backup solutions, I'll do the manual backups and then I'll do like a Deja Dupe, but I also use Clonezilla. But one issue that I've been having on the laptop with Clonezilla is if it's a big restoration, the SSD in there will do some wear leveling stuff, and then the bits won't be the same as it was when I backed it up, and then it just fails to restore. And it's like, well, that's really annoying.
That's why I just like backing up. I like backing up files. I don't like doing the like like in Macs you can do the what's that what is that program that they use there? They just like little
Time Machine.
Time machine, brain farting, time machine, all that kind of stuff. Sure, I have a drive set aside for that on my or did have when I was running Mac OS on my CMP, and I did all that, and I was like, you know what? There's nothing I need to restore in the Mac OS personally, because I just use it for derping and all that kind of stuff, and everything's backed up. Everything I need is backed up on the 8 terabyte hard drive if I do anything on the machine. Because if I make a Word file or an Excel document or whatever the case may be, I don't just save it on the Mac hard drive. I save it externally too.
I did want to say the one benefit of these newer file systems like ButterFS is it automatically does integrity checks of the data and prevents bit rot. And so not all file systems do that. And I do say I appreciate that. But Joe, you look like you wanted to say something earlier, and also Prophetic told me in the chat that you look like you wanted to say something. Was it pertaining to backups?
No, actually, that's why I said I'll wait. It was a different question about some hardware apps that I use in here. I was just curious if any of you guys use them. That's
sure.
Ooh.
Because we can fall down that rabbit hole of file backups, and everybody's going to drop out on the stream.
Okay. Well, all I was curious about is because, again, I'm always searching and trying different things to see what would work. And one of the most frustrating things initially was being able to control my fans on the system and then on the GPU and that kind of stuff. And I know that there was a couple of different apps, which one of them now has been forked over to Core Control. So I was curious if anybody uses that. And the other one that I use is, well, for the camera, I found another one called Camera Controls. But let me look up the GPU one because I still get lacked. That's another one if you haven't heard of that. I don't know if any of you guys have used any of those, but they work really well. Core Control will allow you to pretty much do all of it. But I like lacked because I can kind of tweak the graduation, if you will, of the speeds and things like that a little bit better, it seems like. So I just didn't know if any of you guys were familiar with those apps. I was curious.
The closest thing I've played with was like OpenRGB for messing with.
Yeah,
like,
I use that too. Yeah.
Yeah, but as far as like fan control, I've only ever used the BIOS fan control and set the curves there. There's probably a better way. I don't think, but I'm not that.
The BIOS is probably, believe it or not, the best way. But the problem with the BIOS is when you're trying to get it set to where you want it. One of the things I know is if I rely on just the BIOS, every time you start putting any kind of use or taxation on the system, even if it's just opening the browser or whatever you're opening, you'll hear the fans come up and then they'll come back down a little bit and then they'll come back. So it's always this wave, this constant wave of it. And it's doing what it's supposed to, especially when you have it set to PWM. Core Control seems to maintain a more consistent. And the other thing I do is I use P-Sensor or whatever, which is LM Sensors based, to monitor, and I look at just the specific items I want to have in there. I take some of them out because you could have, chipsets and all that stuff. I'm not necessarily concerned about that, but I do watch my CPU and my fans of the GPU and the system and memory and all that. And so I just check through that from time to time, but I have found that really works. The only thing I could say about it is it's a little bit more intuitive to have to install core control now. I'm drawing a blank on what the one it forked from. Oh my God, it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, there was another one that was more of a just you click on a GUI and you installed it, and that kind of went away, and now this one took its place. But it's really kind of cool because it's almost got like a speedometer. You come up, you just set it to the percentages you want, you tweak it, and then and it sets the fans. And they will still come up in speed as the system needs it to. But at least it's not running like now. If I was running it here, you might not hear it, but I would. So that's just one app, and even the camera. Yeah, it used to was a GUVC view, whatever it was called before. That works still pretty well, but this camera control I like even better. It's actually abbreviated. It's camera CTRLS, and it's nice for adjusting. I was doing it while we were on here, trying to adjust the lighting and stuff because it seemed a little dark. So, but again, it's just I know because sometimes you guys like to talk about apps or you have shows geared toward that, and that was just something I was curious about because I've heard a lot of complaints about Linux you can't control any of the hardware or whatever. Well, they're coming out with it seems like more and more of these. So that was it. I mean, it got long-winded. I didn't mean to do that.
That's
For
good stuff.
webcams, like for this new webcam, I was using one called the CamSet. It's based on the V4L2 utilities, but then I figured out that it wasn't saving anything. So what I figured out the you could use the V4L-utils package, and then you can issue a command, and it'll display all the different options that your camera supports. And what I did is I put the settings that I wanted into a startup command. So every time my computer boots, it just automatically applies those settings to the webcam, and I'm good to go.
I'd be
So-
curious, Matt, if you being that you're familiar with what you're describing there, maybe just out of curiosity, try cam controls because they have on the bottom up to like 4 profiles. And the beauty of it is I've set what I wanted. Now, granted, I'm not on this time of night too often or whatever, so I didn't have to adjust it. But you can just click on whatever number you want. And the minute you do it, it actually seems like it saves into a config file automatically by itself, and it maintains it that way. So. I just would be curious, maybe by comparison to try that and see if it's any simpler because I don't know how the controls overall compare to what you described, but there's a number of different things you could do with the basic, there's an exposure, color, advanced, capture, all these different things.
I've seen this app before, yeah.
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
thing I think in the vein of utilities kind of like that, there's something that I've used called Auto CPU Freak, which is short for CPU frequency, not freak out. And
that better.
that one has been really solid for me, especially on laptops. Like battery life is kind of important on laptops, but it basically your CPU boosting up, boosting down, underload, offload, things like that. It makes smarter decisions and says, hey, like you're not really doing anything. Why are we boosting? Like, why are we wasting power on opening up a web browser? Let's tone that down. So
Doesn't
that
the TLP app or whatever it's called do the same thing?
not really, not to the same
No.
extent.
Yeah, I would say TLP, the issue that I've had is it's very easy to do things the wrong way. TLP can touch a lot of things that you probably shouldn't be touching on a laptop. CPU Freak really is just like, hey, like you're boosting when you don't need to be boosting. Let's tone that down. TLP, I mean, you can if you don't do it right, you can effectively halt your system over basic things, just in
you
terms of
open
like power
Chrome,
draw.
Would you like to melt your computer?
Why not? That was the thing back in the day, right? With you had to configure X very specifically for certain like monitors, and you could very easily burn your monitor or something like that.
Yeah.
I've only read about it. I'm not that old, but
Thank
it's
God I missed that stage. I was on the tail end of like the Wi-Fi becoming easier. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I can wait. I can wait this out.
I came
But-
in when things got good, so I'm
Or
Yeah.
in the some of the earlier MacBook Pros, like around 2010, 2012, before Linux implemented the SMC fan control driver, you'd
Yep.
try
Oh,
to
it gets
boot up
so
Linux on
hot.
one of those things, it would just go wide open thermal, just fan.
that's wild.
Yeah.
fans full speed, just going burr.
Yeah, they put
Oh,
it.
yeah.
They had a special app to be able to control those, if I remember right. Yeah.
Yeah,
On
but
the-
it
on
didn't
the-
come out right away. When
No.
I don't have Macs anymore, but I had them back then, and I tried to run Ubuntu on the thing, and it was like the thing was melting down after just booting the thing up.
Yeah, that reminds me. I actually had a MacBook Pro 2012, which came with Lion on it, and I tried putting, for example, Gen 2, Arch, and a couple of other Linux
Oh, just the
distros on
easy
it.
ones. Gotcha.
None of the easy ones, Jason. Yeah, but I did actually for a while try to get the problems. The Wi-Fi wasn't that bad. The hardest thing that I had a problem with, and this was the 15-inch version, and it actually had two graphics chips in it, and oh my God, was that a pain in the butt? Because I got to tell you, it defaulted to the NVIDIA graphics on it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, this one right here has the dual GPUs as well. It's a 2013 MacBook Pro, but the only problem.
2013, you said?
Yep, 2013, and the only problem I had with this thing doing the installation, it has Mint on it. The only thing I had issues with is that for some reason it didn't like the Broadcom network
Broadcom networking,
adapter.
yeah.
And so what I ended up doing, instead of doing the USB thing and putting the drivers on there, yada yada yada, I just tethered it via to my phone via Bluetooth, and just downloaded all I had to do was update the kernel. As soon as I updated the kernel on there, it picked up everything right away, and unfortunately it was slower than dirt. Trying to do it through Bluetooth. Oh my God, I do not wish that evil on
Yeah,
anybody.
the Mac Broadcom drivers are, oh my Lord, they're a pain.
They're horrible.
They
But
should just call them broad can't.
but all I gotta say, now it works. And I had, of course, it doesn't have Ethernet, and so I got the old school Thunderbolt to Ethernet adapter.
Yeah,
which is a
we're
must-have.
spoiled now because we can.
are.
I don't know if
Right.
y'all ever do this, but you can go into like either the top bar thing in GNOME, or it's at the bottom in KDE or whatever, and
yeah.
you could just select like low power or high performance or batter, or like balanced or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't a thing when I first started using Linux, and it
there's
seems
so
small, but it's made a huge difference.
I still remember one of my first forays in Linux. Yes, my first real give it a try, for use as my main machine, but way back in the 90s. Mandrake. It's probably Mandrake / Red Hat and all that kind of stuff are the ones and you'd want to try. You think installations now can be hard? Oh.
Okay,
They
in
had
fairness,
nothing back then.
in fairness, except for DOS, I mean,
I
Windows
love
wasn't
DOS.
exactly a walk in the park either at the time. So really, it wasn't.
Oh no, God,
nothing
no.
was really a walk in the park.
No
back in
drivers.
the-
No drivers for anything.
Yeah. Jason, when
I'm
you
just
were
let
talking
you
about
know
back in
that,
that day, you had to do the Wooby key and
You'd
all
get a
that.
box. You'd get a box with like 50 floppy disk in it to install your OS.
Disc 1, disc 2, disc 3.
It was 30.
I'm gonna just let you know that
36 discs.
the power profiles thing you were mentioning, it's only really useful when you leave the house.
Yep.
This is true. Yeah, absolutely. If you're plugged in, yeah.
Doesn't leave the house.
I am. we're all stuck in our mom's basements.
Actually, my brothers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I definitely I move around a lot, so like laptops have always been like my primary go-to. And so that's been super handy for me. I don't think really a lot of people are going to find much use in it outside of that. That is definitely it.
Let's see. I find this thing more powerful than any laptop I have because, well, it's modern.
I'll tell you what, Apple nailed it when it comes to like the power on iPad. Like my M4 iPad Pro, literally, like compared to almost any computer I've used, like rendering out an 8K video at 60 FPS in less than 5 minutes, and it was like a 20, I want to say it was like 20 clips put together.
That's sick.
Insane.
Nice.
It would
Well,
literally have taken an hour on anything else.
This is not quite as fancy as yours. This is the M2
Oh,
iPad
the Air? Oh,
Yep.
solid machine.
Oh, it's amazing.
Incredible.
I had the Mini 4 forever. And of course, now it doesn't even get any updates because it's so darn old.
Yeah.
And it stopped. Actually, the only reason I upgraded, because I
Right.
pretty much only use it for e-reader. The only reason I upgraded was because I couldn't actually open the YouTube videos anymore on the iPad Mini. It didn't like it. So I was like, you know what?
Well, this Android one I got for free. Well, my wife got it for free. Some kind of if you buy this, you get this for free, and it came with the tablet,
Oh yeah.
the case, the Bluetooth keyboard, even a mouse. And I mean, it's got 6 gigs of RAM in it. It's for free. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really slow. I don't believe the claim on the CPU because sometimes, like if I have more than 2 apps open, it's a pig. But it's good enough to go on Discord or lay in bed right here, watch a movie or something until I fall asleep and
Exactly.
drop it on my head.
Yeah,
My doctor
lay in
gave me a
bed.
bottle full of tablets.
Yeah, lay in bed, and the next thing for me is lay in bed and try to watch Moving and Cat.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm trying to like blueprint out a whole setup for my bed. My wife is like, "You better not make this look like Mission Control next to our bed. It's gonna totally kill the vibe." And I'm like, "Dang," because I literally was like doing some like mock measurements and having my dual arm
NASA
monitor set up next, like drilling.
Yep.
I'm about to drill a hole in my nightstand because
Yep.
I want to be next to my wife. I'm in a nice basement, but my wife's in the 3rd floor and she's like in bed, and I'm just like, I want to be next to her, but I also want to feel comfortable with my keyboard and a monitor without breaking my neck looking down. And yeah, that's my next like little
Get an
project.
Apple Vision Pro and just like have the
Yep.
screen right there.
No, because I have the MetaQuest 3, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, so do
But
that.
yeah, but here's the problem. It's like maybe it's just a tactility thing, but when I'm putting the headset on, you need a computer to really get the best of the keyboard interaction with the device. So
Yeah.
that means you have to have a remote computer. You have a remote into a computer nearby or something. And
So you put the computer behind the nightstand so you can't see it. Use a wireless keyboard and mouse.
I've
the
done
MetaQuest
that.
on your
I've
head.
been there, done that, got a t-shirt and all. The problem is, usually the device on the headset dies really quickly. So I have to buy like a really long USB cord that's powerful enough to juice it while I'm using it. And I'll be honest, outside of gaming on the MetaQuest 3, when it comes to productivity, it takes so long for me to settle in with the right headset and the right angle and the right position, and then I gotta go to the bathroom to the boys' room, and I gotta take it all off, and I gotta reset, and then it's slightly the orientation of the monitor is like slightly moved around because I put the headset off for 2 seconds and put it back on, and it takes too much tinkering to settle in.
I'm
So
not
that's why I was
married,
divorced.
but I would imagine your wife probably doesn't also want to look over at you wearing like big chunky goggles.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
honey?
look
Are you
over.
paying attention to me?
Look, man, if Cyberpunk prophetic doesn't get it going, then I don't know if there's any saving that marriage. So
I know, yeah.
Especially
you
if
know,
he
get
paints
the paperwork,
eyeballs on
man.
him. He turns and looks at him.
I think the coolest. I think one of the coolest at-home nerd projects I've seen was the guy. He had a Raspberry Pi mounted in the wall with an Arduino, and he had a touch screen running the LCARS interface from Star Trek, and it was connected to like all the lights and stuff in the
That's
house.
so cool.
And I'm like, I want that.
That's
You
the
know,
dream right
it's-
there.
Why does that remind me
Yeah.
of craft computing? Sounds like something he would do.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, you talk about Raspberry Pis too. Have you ever tried one of the minis, like the GMK Tech G3s or whatever? I've got one of those. This thing works fantastic.
Those things are so cool.
Yes, they
What
work
is it?
fantastic.
Is it a Raspberry Pi or something different?
No, it's a mini computer. The one I have might be 4 inches square, but they have one that will literally fit in the palm of your hand, and it's got probably as much power as some laptops or desktops. Or you could spend up to $600-700 on them. I mean, the one that I bought, was what, $140. It's it's got a Celeron 150 in it, but they're powerful. They work.
So what do you
they're
do-
not like
what's
the
the
old
form factor?
Celerons, you know.
What's the form factor of those? Like, what's the?
As far as the CPU or something like that?
No, just like the device you're talking about. I have no idea.
It's
what
just a
device
mini
you're talking
PC. If you look up I think GMK, which is all capitals, and a T, and then it's a small EC, GMK Tech, because they've got all different types out. But that one, it's getting really popular, and
Oh.
this is the 150 is the next version of it. You could buy them even cheaper than that. B-Link is another one you've heard of or whatever. Those cost a little bit more,
Yep.
but this one works really well. They have single sticks of RAM, but they work. They've got their DDR4. I think it's got 3200 megahertz in it. I only got the 256 because I throw it on my TV. I use it on there. I put Ubuntu on it or whatever, and I scale it up for the 43 inch screen, whatever it is I got back there, and yeah, they work great. And to me, the difference between that and the Raspberry Pi, it seems it's a lot more versatile in the sense if you do want to upgrade it a little bit, it's got a second. It comes in NVMe M.2 NVMe main drive, and then it's got a second slot for M.2 SATA. So if you want to have a secondary drive in there too, I think the max on it is 16 gigs of RAM on some of them, but there are others that, again, you could go up in price on them. But if you want to buy something that's Raspberry Pi price, and be able to do more with it, it's got a lot more ports on them and stuff like that. You can't go wrong. And I'm not bashing Raspberry Pi; they have their place.
Yeah,
But
It's
to
like
me, I
using the
think
palm of your hand. What the huh?
These are awesome.
I actually had this the Nookbox G5 actually show up in my Amazon recommendeds a couple of days ago.
yeah, and
It's a tiny little thing. It's like
now those are more expensive, believe it or not, even though they're smaller. But the Power Day pack, if you look up Lon TV, he's one that he's all into Linux and stuff too, and he'll show the comparison between Windows and Linux and whatever. And he gets these devices all the time, and he'll
If this has monitor pass through USB-C.
The one that I have, I just hook up an HDMI cable, and it comes with an HDMI cable and stuff.
Oh yeah,
So,
because my wife won't let me commandeer her office desk in the dining room.
yeah.
So I'm like, if I could just convince her that I can just do this one thing, click, and I'm in.
Matter of
do my
fact, let me
stuff,
pull it
boom.
out. I had a different one.
I can win her over. Because when I come in with my laptop or even with my phone for Samsung Dex, I need a keyboard and mouse. And
But I like the mini PCs as like a media center kind of thing. That's what I usually use them for.
Casual computing.
Yeah, well, I have the Raspberry Pi. I got it's just off camera. I got a Roku TV over there, but I have the Raspberry Pi on it, and it runs Kodi Media Center. It's just
Here's the one I just got. This one I upgraded from the previous version. Look at the size of that thing.
Yeah, there's baked-in VESA mount
It's
screws I can use.
Yep, and there's actually one that's probably a third of the size of this. That's the G5.
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at right now. It's like really rinky
Sizable.
dinky.
Yeah, it's
There's the inside of it.
2.83
Pop
inch
the
by
top
2.83
cover
inch
off.
by 1 3/4.
All right,
Yeah,
Joe. Honestly, how much are you getting paid for this sponsorship?
Yeah, I know, right?
Well,
But they come with
just-
the Windows 11 Pro on it, but I wipe them off.
Just go to
Same.
yeah, Jinda put a link in the chat for the Amazon link for the G5 mini PC for a 12 gig version, DDR5 with 256 gigs, which is obviously you can just put an external on there. It's only $144.
Yeah, it's not bad. These are great prices.
But for how small it is, it's actually an impressive specification for how tiny the thing is.
I wonder how it handles so if you put a lot of pressure on a PC for an extended period of time, you hit thermal saturation and it's not able to keep it cool. That'd be what I wonder about.
No, the reason about I upgraded to this one too, the fan was not terrible on the other one. You would hear it come up a little bit and go back down. This one, of course, again, I listen to Lon TV. I trust what he does. He's a pretty decent guy, and like he'll tell you, so my opinions are my own. I don't have anybody tell me what I'm doing. And he said this thing's almost virtually silent. And he even, granted, it's on low settings like GTA 5. He even ran GTA 5 on this thing, and it probably got 30 FPS out of it. He said, and he couldn't even hear it running. He said he had to put it up to his ear. So the thing is that depending on the model you pick, They've got stronger processors. They've got some that are, I mean, it's like anything else.
Right.
It depends on what you want to do with it. But you could spend a little bit more money and get something that's even beefier. If you want Ryzen, they've got a Ryzen 7 5800U on one of them on the B links and stuff.
This
But
gets
even
me
these, they all
kind of.
go up in price.
I'm like definitely like, as much as I have a low tolerance for finagling of VR headset, I love the futuristic work like use cases. So this does get me thinking about like putting in having my VR headset, and I can go to a coffee shop, just carry this dinky little block around with a keyboard and mouse,
Mhm.
and I can jack in at the coffee
Yep.
shop, because
Wi-Fi.
that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
This
this is
one, this is the
nice.
other one. I've got it wrapped up right now, but the other one is that it's kind of an ugly green color. I didn't care about the color. It's sitting on their TV. You hardly
Hey,
even
we
notice
love
it
green.
there.
Yeah, what's wrong with green?
Well,
Right,
yeah,
Susie?
that's right.
Right, Susie, guys?
Excuse me, Nate. Sorry, I forgot about that.
Linux
I
Mint
wanna-
users green.
I want
It's
you to,
actually,
so
it's actually kind of that color green. You remember that guy?
it's nice. I
Yeah.
like it.
Oh yeah.
Fill your brain.
So, Rochelle, you turn on your camera. So, one, it's nice to see you. Also, you did unmute your mic. You wanted to interject something?
I mean, a while back, I think people were talking about power saving on Linux, and there's
Yeah.
there's a interesting project in the kernel called SkedXed. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It's basically it uses BPF to allow you to run custom schedulers from user space, right? And it's actually it relates to the whole we were talking about SteamOS, right? And I think SteamOS should actually ship this by default. So what you can do with this technology is you can have an application that sends a D message to, you run a systemd service called SCX Loader, and it listens to D messages, and then it can basically swap the running scheduler immediately, right? So if you're running a game, I mean, the example the guy gives in the repo, who kind of is spearheading the project, he runs Terraria at like 30 frames per second, and then runs a custom scheduler, gets 60, right? So I think it's and on the same token, he does it to like save battery life as well. Like when he's out of the house, he'll just like, swap in a custom scheduler, and it just basically saves him a lot of battery life. It's pretty cool.
That is interesting. Is it going to be
Sounds
mainlined
cool.
into the kernel? Is that like a thing that's going to be part of the? You think that?
Yeah,
you'll
it's already
see...
landed actually.
Okay.
At least the BPF infrastructure is in. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I think some operating systems, like there's something called CachyOS or some distributions, they actually ship it on by default. Same with I think Ubuntu 25.04 does as well.
Cool.
It's cool. I've never heard of this. What's it
Yeah,
called
you
again?
learn something new every day.
Yeah, that's why I like this.
SkedXed. Here, I'll put it in the thing.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Put in the chat for us, that'd be great. And Joe, can you put the name of the streamer or maybe a link to his YouTube channel in the chat?
Sure.
Please.
Let me look them up for you.
Thank you.
I mean, there's a number of them. If you just typed in a search, you'd find a number of them. But I like his because he just seems really unbiased, and I mean, so I think you guys would enjoy him if you haven't seen him before.
Yeah, it'd be great. I like watching anything
Interesting.
nerdy and techy. so-
Lon Seidman is his actual name, and it shows up in his title too. And
Is that LAN?
LON.
Oh,
There
so
you go.
I just put the
I would
link
have got
in.
it all wrong.
Yeah, I just put the link in. If you just do Lon TV, it'll show up. So
There we go.
So-
Awesome. I'm gonna. Where's my mouse?
So it's SCX is the package name, or
project,
like
or-
the project. And so
Oh, go ahead.
there's actually a lot of different schedulers. That's part of it. That's very interesting.
There's a lot, yeah. Cool.
One of the really nice things about stuff like that is that, like you mentioned, there being a lot of schedulers, like it doesn't just apply to things like gaming. So if you are running an application that's very heavy on like file operations, or like just IO heavy in general, you can have it request a specific scheduler that prioritizes those things for the duration of it. So like, let's say you have a backup solution, that's sort of dumping to like a RAID controller, not a RAID controller, but like software RAID, and it's all handled natively, like, you know, BTRFS RAID, or ZFS RAID or something like that. You can have it perform a little better for things like that, or a little more reliably, and just get that out of the way and then be done with it. And then pop open a game, and that can request a completely different scheduling type. The possibilities are really endless. So that's pretty awesome stuff.
And one of the cooler, so I mean, a lot of tech companies are using this now, right, in production, because like the Linux scheduler is like one scheduler to rule them all type thing, right? So it tries to do a very good job for everything, but workloads look dramatically different based on what you're doing, right?
Especially AI, machine learning, and like all this different crazy stuff that people are doing.
Exactly, yeah. So there's also people that are attempting to implement like one scheduler that will dispatch different logic based on C groups, so you can have multiple, kinds of applications group by C. So low latencies, maybe you need, one C group, right? You have something else in another C group, and it'll actually change how it's scheduling tasks on specific cores.
Cool.
That'd be really awesome, especially for like audio production stuff, for people who do like live like multimedia IO. Like that's really handy.
Yeah.
So
Are there tutorials somewhere to learn about? I mean, this is a little bit probably out of my pay grade, but
Yeah, probably, and it's also really new, so I don't think there's
yeah,
too many...
it is. It's in kernel version 6.12 and later. So it looks like the Steam Deck actually already uses SCX LavD. It's developed by Igala for the Steam Deck and optimized for video game. What's that?
They do use it then.
Yeah, it's being developed by Valve now. So that's what they use, that one particular scheduler, because there's multiple different schedulers, as you were stating. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm really glad you brought that up. So yeah, whenever you join, just feel free to just kind of just stick your foot in and just start talking. That's just what everyone else does, or whatever.
In other words, just interrupt Nate when he's talking.
Yeah, you can interrupt me anytime.
You could make silly faces too.
That's the only face I got.
Faces.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Or you can just show cats on the channel too.
So we are at time, and I did want to. So next week is a distribution exploration, and I did get some feedback from a listener viewer who sent me an email, and it was concerning our Bunsen Labs distribution exploration we did, which was very complimentary, but they said that they prefer Crunchbang++. They said we should try that.
Crunchbang++.
Yeah, Crunchbang++. So I don't know that I'm necessarily I want to do that necessarily, but I did want to get some thoughts from the group about.
It might be too close to do it, like, because we just tried something. Because it's nice when we try another distribution to do something different. But if we do it, it is fresh in our minds to compare because they're similar.
What's
but
Debian?
It's not really like a comparison show. It's more like a distribution thing. So I would vote to try something different.
Is there anything out there that might interest you? That maybe
I mean, I have a soft spot for the Aeon team. And they're like, again, they're in the last stretch, even though they've been saying that for like a year and a half now. To see their take on Immutable, because it seems like everyone else has been getting a lot of attention, or meanwhile Aeon is trying to keep it minimalistic but still immutable, where with trimming out a lot of the fat. So it should be interesting to see if people would like to have the immutability and the usability, but without all the bells and whistles like Bazite or Bluefin.
I was wondering why Jinda put what he said in chat. I was like, what? Jinda hasn't said a darn thing. Oh, somebody's talking smack. Got it.
And also it's OpenSUSE too. So if you like OpenSUSE and you're not used to running OpenSUSE, this could be a soft introduction to like a rolling release that's safe.
Just in case anybody wants to check it out, I put the Crunch Crunch Bang Bang links in our
Crunch
chat
Bang
and
Plus.
that thing, whatever it is. Bang Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
The history on that's actually pretty interesting if you read where that came from.
Yeah.
Looked sleek when it came out. I remember those days.
Yeah. And we can try Aeon or any of the OpenSUSE variant. Because Aeon I think is the
GNOME version.
GNOME. Yeah, I'm not a huge.
The plasma version is not is like it's literally he would call it downstream of Gnome's version because he pretty much maps whatever Richard does, and so he's pretty much like I wouldn't say like a version behind Richard, but he tends to wait around to this when Richard decides to do something, then he'll implement it. So if you want the best OpenSUSE immutable experience, you're probably going to want to go with Aeon, unless you're feeling frisky and you want to go for beta software, which is Kappa, which is still good. It's still strong. People run it every day, but release candidate GNOME might give you the best mileage.
I gotcha. Well, so you have yet to do an immutable distribution on the on Linux Saloon, so we could do that for first of the year. Can you be here next week, just in case?
Yeah. Which one?
Aeon, AEON, I think.
I've never heard of it.
Anybody got a link for it and throw it up in there in all the chats?
I'll drop it right now.
So I actually got to bookmark the Bang Bang.
This is a laser developer's dream OS.
Here's the portal for like basics overview.
Open browser.
Here's aeondesktop.github.io is the
There should be a link there.
Facing.
Cool.
So
unless somebody else has any disagreement with that, for the sake of time, nope. All right.
Nice.
Nope. All right.
Sweet.
And
all right.
I'll go ahead and
we'll
paste
give that a shot.
Oops, wrong link. My bad.
Yeah.
That link.
So we'll do that. So next week. Aeon.
All right. We'll look at that one.
And then, of course, if you have any distribution suggestions or application suggestions, poll ideas, anything, topics, you can send to suggestions at linuxsaloon.com or
desktop environment suggestion, Nate.
What's that?
It's a community-based project. It's actually a fork of the old KDE 4.x desktop called Katana.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, and I figured given it's KDE based, it might be up your alley. And it's I'll send you the link in Telegram. But I gotta tell you, I actually tried to build it, and there's a couple of different package formats it has. Sadly, if you're not on an Arch or a Debian or a BSD base, you're gonna have to compile it. And they do have a build script in there, and I was thinking, one of these weeks we could take a peek at it.
Yeah, I like that idea. Send me on Telegram the information. Like if you get any links.
Yeah, I'll send it after the show. Sure.
And we got a couple of our Mac friends in chat. We got Rudy and Dave.
And then also,
what's up?
Something else I thought was interesting was apparently KDE 1 has been forked and is now something you can install.
Oh, good God.
It's very minimalist because that was the only choice in the 90s. But I thought that was interesting. I just heard about that today. So I'll find out more information on that. But,
nice.
Until then.
That's way the heck retro.
It would be super retro.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Good
So
night,
I want
Vince.
to get to a quick community free pour. Yeah, Vince had to leave because he's probably take his Geritol or something.
No. Well, if we don't get to it, Nate, we can always do it next week. It
What
doesn't
we can do
Oh,
if you got like a quick, we can
do a small update,
yeah,
sure.
just
then I'll
just a small update. You know,
Yeah.
down and
Okay.
dirty.
I'll do a down and dirty small thing. Okay. So my team and I have been talking, and we need to. We are we're almost to our 30K download mark. And
All
here's the
right.
problem. Yes, we have decided that given we are getting so daggone popular and so over the moon, so to speak, we need to start having two versions, a free version and how can I call it? A sort of like a zero Linux scenario here where, we want to keep it 100% free, but here's the problem. It's getting to the point that, yes, we want to keep doing that, but we have to start taking more of a dual distributing approach where we have a paid version and a non-paid version. So, just to keep the distro, alive, so to speak.
Would you consider maybe just putting a like a welcome screen and saying, hey, if you're liking this, kick in a couple of bucks to something?
Yeah, because what we're doing is on the website, we are planning to hopefully have something where people can just donate and then click a button to download the ISO, sort of like a buy me a coffee, so to speak, kind of thing. So, or like a Ko-Fi type deal.
Patreon type
so
deal.
What, Jason?
So maybe like a Patreon version, quote unquote.
Yeah, or a PayPal or something like that,
Yeah.
because, I've been talking to Matt about incorporating a button on the website to sort of like say, hey, here's PayPal if you want, and then a link down below to the Google Drive link or whatever it is. So that way,
Make
people
sure it's
that
a business PayPal.
Yeah, PayPal is like the easiest method to do it, and that's just sort of the way
But a business version of PayPal, because if you do personal after a certain amount, PayPal would just take your money.
they mail you. Yeah.
They
Well,
bend
yeah.
you over basically.
Patreon might be a smarter route. Well, we'll see what we end up doing. Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, that's just
people have
something I
to
wanted to bring up because, I mean, yeah, I don't have a business PayPal account, but I've been considering getting something like that because, I don't want to get flagged or anything like that. So
Yeah, just keep in mind though, as you grow your
User
project
base.
organization,
Yeah.
make sure you follow the rather tortured path of what it takes to do it completely on the up and up, because especially if you have other contributors and whatnot,
yeah.
things can get murky, and so I think those early stages I think can be very a tumultuous experience. So just
I get
as you go, tread carefully. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll be as careful as we can be, Nate. So, but
Be
that's just
mindful
sort
of the
my-
force.
So we'll take it in stride.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a good idea. Well, excellent. Well, I'm glad that things are going, and you got 30,000 downloads. That's nothing.
It's
That's no sneeze.
it's a ride, and the ride, Stormcoin. Yeah. Oh God. Well, we'll figure something out as we go. So
Yeah, I think you'll do great.
yeah. Anyway, now to close the show.
Yep. So, thank you very much for being here.
Sure.
So, as part of last call, I just want to, if anyone has anything they want to say, like any projects they're working on, they want to maybe plug. I know, Jason, you're part of that Mac group, the Dave's Vintage Apple.
I have
Tech.
one more thing I want to say about Mac related, actually.
What's that?
Well, I found a 10.6.8 image online of Snow Leopard, and I'm actually going to be chucking that onto my ProBook HP laptop sitting next to me after the show, just for fun.
That sounds like fun.
That's
I'll
one
take
project. That'll be fun.
So,
Yep,
Jason,
I'm part of Nate joins in every once in a while with the group. It's the Days Vintage Apple Tech. He meets every Sunday. If you look it up on YouTube, Days Vintage Apple Tech, he does an 8-hour stream every Sunday, it's kind of like this, where a group of people just get together and chit chat. But the difference is you'll have people working on older Macs, like replacing caps, and sometimes they use they make their own custom boards, and custom projects like Blue Scuzzies or whatever the case may be, and they build them live on stream. So there's some of that, and there's some of just like this chit chat talking tech, or things of that nature. So it's a great group, a lot of fun. If you guys are have time, and even you don't have to obviously dedicate the full 8 hours, but drop by. Dave's he's in chat right now. There he is, Dave's Vincent Chapel Tech. And he will be he does it okay. Well, he says 6 hours now. That's right.
Yeah,
he
he
dropped
dropped down
a
to 6
bit.
hours. He had some reasons for
6
it.
hours.
Yeah.
Yep. 6, 8. Well, it's not really that big of a difference.
The length of Linux Saloon actually is the difference. So so check that out. Rudy he says he wants 10 hours. So guess
Well,
that's
go ahead,
all it takes
Rudy.
to get some
Fire
of
it
these
up.
things done. Well, cool. So Steve's very own. He won't be streaming tomorrow. He says he's not feeling well. So catch him on Tuesday. I didn't see him in the chat though. I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. We just recorded, kind of talked about 4 of us were on there. So we had Wendy, Matt, Bill, and myself. Just released this morning, so you can check that out. We kind of talk about what's coming up. There's a lot of content edits because things went completely off the rails, and it's not appropriate. So and no, there won't be a paid version for that, because if that gets out on the internet, I'm sure that'd be really bad for everything. Anyway, Schykle, do you have anything that you want to share, or Matt, anything specific?
Yeah, I had one thing that I just released a new Debian package for the Microsoft Core fonts.
Oh, cool.
Debian already has a package for that, but they've been having problems with the TLS certificates being invalid, so the script just fails to download them properly. And I've been waiting 2.5 weeks for somebody to fix it, and nobody fixed it. So I just made my own package. So
you want it done, do it yourself.
Yeah. So I did a YouTube video demonstrating that today. It's on my YouTube channel, but it's on SourceForge as well. It's just a basic package. I pretty much took the original Debian source package and just changed it just enough to get around the problem it was having. It's just not that big of a deal. But the those core fonts, the source in which it's pulling from hasn't been updated since 2014. So I think that's probably what the issue is. So
yeah, it could be.
I just changed the source URL within the script. Everything else is exactly the same as the original. I just changed the download source, so it works now. So,
well, good deal. That's awesome for you to contribute in such a way.
Mm-hmm.
And Schykle, you
you
said
have a
he had
link
something
for it, Matt?
Yeah. I just, being back on Linux and kind of seeing all the amazing things people are working on has inspired me to start writing again.
Oh, good.
I'm feeling creative, wanting to make videos and stuff like that. So, I plan on posting some things, trying to contribute to some stuff. I'll see, like what I can do to kind of, rising tide lifts all boats, anything I can contribute. But I'm at Schykle pretty much anywhere. So when I get up to some stuff, you'll probably find me somewhere. So
do you have a link? Like did you have a Medium page?
Yes,
for a while?
Schykle.medium.com. I know Medium's not the best. I'm working to replace that. I just haven't fully sorted it out yet. I'm working on my actual site with my domain and everything to fix that. But
okay,
Medium was so awesome, but then they got just
it was
too greedy.
so good, and now I'm struggling. It's rough.
They got greedy.
Huh?
well, sometimes a 60% solution is better than a 0%. So
Yeah.
well, good deal.
With what you got.
I enjoyed your articles in times past, so it's good that you do that again. I don't, Prophetic, do you have anything you want to share?
Nothing. Just remember that Aeon Desktop is a release candidate, and it's not meant to try to be tumbleweed or anything else. It's immutable to get stuff done, and less is more. But with Flatpaks and DistroBucks, you're pretty much good to go with everything else. And it should be fun to see what your take is, because I will be taking that back to the Aeon team.
Cool.
I just recently freed up some time with a church I was volunteering for that I'm no longer at. So I have some more time on my hands. So maybe I might be more around
Cool. That'd be
to
great.
help.
Yay!
It's always good to see you.
Like when I see you.
All right, and I know Jinda. He's probably going to tell us something. You have anything good, Jinda? Beginning of the year, words of wisdom from Jinda.
Words of wisdom.
What, gender talk? What?
Oh, come on. Words of wisdom? Oh, I got one for you. Stay out of trouble. Just someone's-
Hey, in the words of Mal, I aim to misbehave.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Just
kind of-
stay out of trouble. It's just someone's opinion anyway, so
I don't know if anybody got that reference, but
yeah.
I kind of made me think of what Jinda's kind of think of a liar, liar. You know, stop
Yeah.
breaking the law.
yeah. I was talking about Firefox or Firefly rather, Firefly and or AKA Serenity.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Malcolm
yeah.
Reynolds. I aim to misbehave.
Deep cut.
That was a great show.
You're
I don't know
damaging
why
my
they-
calm.
that one should not
Yeah.
have been mothballed.
That should not have been canceled. It's got one of the biggest followings ever for a TV show that has one season and one movie.
Mhm.
It's huge following.
That was it was really good. It was kind of like the Wild West meets
Space Cowboy.
Space Cowboy. Yeah, it was good. Sean says eat your veggies, so you can check. So make sure you eat your veggies.
My veggies today.
All right, and I have a website called cubiclelake.com. I do things.
Rudy says,
So-
"Don't eat the yellow snow."
Don't eat the yes. Don't eat the yellow snow. Especially if you're in Florida, because if there's yellow snow, something has gone terribly wrong.
That is not snow. That is
Mm-hmm.
yo.
That's if something's gone terribly wrong. All right. Well, Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. Thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation here, or in the Zoom meeting, or the YouTube chat, or watching the show after the fact. However you do it, thank you very much. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time.
Doodles.
See ya.
See ya. Try puppy Linux.
Bye.